Elizabeth Scales. And in the family, we always called her Merri Elizabeth. And when Mother and Daddy needed her, it was Merri Elizabeth, Merri Elizabeth. You don't just say Merri Elizabeth, Merri Elizabeth, because they were from the South. Now, I heard that, and I thought they were saying Marilpa. And so that is what I call her, is Marilpa. And some of you have heard me call her that. But she was born April 23rd, 1944. And as I said, Mom and Dad, my mother and father always called her by the full name. She was born in Pascagoula, Mississippi. Now you think about 1944. That was a shipbuilding town. And Daddy was an industrial arts teacher, and he did not have access to wood. And he would go over to the shipbuilders, and he would ask them if he could have the boxes that the mortars had been stored in, because remember, this was during the war. And they would give him the wooden boxes, and the wooden boxes had the type of mortar shell printed on the outside. So all of our dollhouse furniture came from these mortar shells with these words on it. And it was quite wonderful. Daddy made us a stove, a little refrigerator, doll beds, dressing tables, and they were all out of those boxes and mortar shells. And Barbara, raise your hand, Barbara. Barbara remembers coming to Mother and Daddy's house and seeing all this darling little furniture. And I don't know if she ever looked on the back of it, but they really were from mortar shells. Now, of course, this was before D-Day on June 6th, because my sister was born in April, the invasion of Normandy. Now, I know our son, y'all are going to Normandy in Europe. This will be quite interesting because we're talking 80 years ago. And that happened before my sister, or after my sister was born. Daddy taught shop and Mother taught 5th and 6th grade, but she was certified in English and history and Latin. And we always used correct English. You don't say me and I wrong. You don't, I can go over all the things. And in our head, we can hear it all. I still correct my sister and she'll say, "Oh, Mother." That's what she says to me. Now, a fun fact about 1944, white bread. Anybody want to take a guess at how much white bread cost? 9 cents for a 20-ounce loaf. And I don't know about you, but I brought Nature's Own butter bread the other day, and it was $4.69. A cup of coffee was 10 cents. I thought that was kind of high for coffee back then, unless, of course, you're going to Starbucks today. And eggs were 45 cents a dozen. Of course, we could go on and on about the ridiculous prices in the 1944 compared to what they are now. But I think what's really fun is that frozen dinners were invented in 1944, but they didn't become TV dinners until 10 years later. I don't think they had good TVs back then. Who wanted to sit in front of a box? In 1949, the whole family moved to Venice, Florida. Oh my goodness, Mother and Daddy loved Venice, Florida. Of course, they loved Mississippi too, because that's where they learned to eat Creole and gumbo, and that was one of our favorites as a child growing up. But my sister and I played with each other all the time. A lot of times people will say to us, "Why are y'all such good friends?" Well, it's the only friend we had. We were, we lived in a small neighborhood. We did have, I think there was a fence around the place, but we made doll clothes. Now you can just see us making doll clothes, and we had a little hand crank metal sewing machine. And that was more fun, and they were both the same, and we would sit there and we would just sew doll clothes. And Daddy raised rabbits, and he tanned the hides, and Elizabeth said, "Let's make fur clothes, let's make fur coats for our dolls." And that's what we did. And I want you to know, those, other than the fact that the fur fell off, we did have those doll clothes that Elizabeth may even have today in her house, because she kept all her doll clothes.
I still play with them.
She does. So we had to go to nursery school together. I'm 3 years younger than she is. But back then, they didn't separate the ages. You didn't have 2-year-olds here and 3-year-olds here, and everybody separated. So we were all together. And I was like a Velcro sister. Wherever my sister went, I went. If she ate mashed potatoes, I ate mashed potatoes. If she went swimming, I went swimming. I don't know what happened when she went to first grade, but I must have been totally lost. And even today, we're kind of like that, the Velcro sisters. She was an artist, even at that very young age, and Mother and Daddy sent her to the Ringland School of Art to study there, and there was some famous man there. She doesn't remember. Anyway, she studied under him, and Mother kept all of her paintings. And when we moved from Venice to Tallahassee, Mother had all those paintings, and she kept them underneath the bed. It was quite a stack. But in Venice, our backyard had bobcats in it. And in my mind, and maybe my sisters too, we lived really, really far from the beach, didn't we? Really, really far. So I asked my husband, take me back to Venice and let's see where my old house was. Want to know how really, really far is? A mile. Do you know how much that house is worth today? A lot. Every weekend we went swimming in the Gulf, and our father was an avid fisherman. And so my sister and I learned to fish, but we found out later we were not fishing at all. We were pole holders. That's all we ever were, and that was okay. And then Halloween came, and we went and got candy for the trick-or-treaters. Now, we did not have candy in our house. Daddy was the cook in the family, and he would make a pound cake every once in a while and an apple cobbler, but we never had candy. So there's that candy, and my sister and I going, oh, this is something bad. And Mary Elizabeth said, I'm gonna blame it on her. She says, let's just eat one. We ate the whole bag. And then we took the wrappers and we put gravel inside it, and handed it out. I think we had to move at that point. we moved to Tallahassee. One of the reasons we moved to Tallahassee, because my parents were teachers, and they were not wealthy people at all. They came from Alabama. They came from rural settings where everybody was farmers. Daddy was born in 1901, Mother in 1908. So you know the financial time of that. They went through the Depression, thank you. And everything was saved. Oh Lord, everything was saved in our house. Mother even saved eggshells. But as Barbara will attest to, because she said, why are all these egg cartons all over? Well, they were saving the egg cartons, but that's not really true. My mother was an egg, she made beautiful, like Fabergé eggs. But we moved to Tallahassee so that we could live at home and be able to go to college. And of course, we went to FSU, and that was great fun. But before that, we went to Florida High School. And Florida High School is a demonstration school that's part of Florida State. The whole school, from first grade to 12th grade, only had 300 students. They took a very small number. And people that started in the first grade and ended up in the 12th grade, we're still seeing those people. We didn't start in the first grade. But in the whole high school graduating class that my sister was in, there were 75 people. That was the class of 1962, 63 years ago. She and I just attended a multi-year reunion in Tallahassee, and it was absolutely fabulous to hear all the stories and to see how healthy all of these people are at this age. During high school, my sister had the most beautiful long black hair. She looked like she was part of an Indian tribe. She wore round glasses, as was so popular back then, and she was very much a hippie. So then she went off to, during high school, she took home economics classes, so she learned how to sew. Now, Mother taught us how to sew too, but we certainly learned there. And drama classes and art classes. She was the artistic one, even back then. Off to FSU, what did she major in? Fashion design. So there, she had to take a class in FSU in the home economics department, and it was called Beginning Sewing, and we were in it together. And we were both going, oh my gosh, we know how to sew. Nobody can tell us a thing. You know how you are when you're 18 and whatever age she was, or I don't know what we were doing. But Nadine Hackler said, oh no, you ladies are going to make bound buttonholes. You're going to make a wool tailored jacket. You're going to learn to do zippers and etc. So my sister got the jacket pattern. She made it all up and she put it all together, and she was getting ready to put it on for the final show. Her sleeves are on backwards.
I need a D.
Now, I also did something stupid. I put both my cuffs on where they both went out on the same side, but if you keep one hand behind you, the teacher never knows it. I made an A.
That wasn't fair.
At this time, my sister needed to drive and get around, and she bought her first Beetle. And oh, we were so excited about that. When she graduated from FSU, she went to New York and worked as a designer. And from there, she drove off into the sunset to become a very fashionable adult with creative ideas of her own. So that's my story of growing up with my sister, and we still love each other dearly. The ladies in the back, are y'all ready to put whatever you needed? They're already there. Okay, who is handling